Let's bring in Dr. Jordan Peterson. He comes from University of Toronto. He used to teach at Harvard as well, professor of psychology. He's got a best-selling book out called 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. You know, you hear me talk about chaos a lot on this program. Anyway, Dr. Peterson has been in the forefront of fighting for free speech on college campuses and attacking political correctness. So I want to walk through this with you, Doctor. How did it get this bad, first of all? How did it get this bad?
How about 30 years of subsidizing radical leftists on university campuses?
How do they subsidize?
Well, they're subsidized by tax money, paying their salaries, and then, of course, they're also beneficiaries of tuition. And I suppose that's more reasonable because at least that's not compelled tax money. But the campuses are becoming increasingly leftist-oriented since the 1970s, I would say. And now we see the results of that. And the results are the sorts of policies and statements that you just described. So the idea of that our culture is intrinsically white supremacist is becoming, what would you call it, accepted.
Accepted. And if you fight against it, then you're a racist. So, I mean, there's no dialogue.
Well, the thing is if you fight against any of these ideas, then you're the worst exemplar of whatever it is that they're proclaiming. That's
and you have to be destroyed. You not only do you have to be marginalized, but you have to be destroyed. But let's get back to this. Was it the deans? Was it the schools themselves, like Harvard, where you taught, or University of Toronto? They recruit these far left people? Was it a weeding out of moderates and replacing them with far left?
No, I think it was partly the proclivity of people who have a left-leaning temperament to pursue careers like those in the humanities and the social sciences. So there's a self-selection by temperament. And then I think that then there was an additional ideological overlay as postmodernism became the increasingly accepted mode of intellectual conduct on campuses. And so I think that snowballed rather unexpectedly. I mean, I think as well, those people who are possessed by a left-leaning, far left-leaning ideology, of course, also tend to exclude anyone who doesn't share their ideological presuppositions. So I guess that's three factors that were at work simultaneously.
And they don't even hide it. They're not even hiding the fact that they don't want your opinion or my opinion broadcast or in a lecture or in a debate. They want to shut you, me down, hurt us, marginalize us, get us off whatever venue we're on. But it seems to me that in America, and maybe Canada as well, there should be pushback by not only other faculty members, but the students. There should be pushback saying, look, we don't want that kind of a campus. We don't want to live in a totalitarian academic environment.
Well, I think that is happening to some degree. There are more and more free speech clubs being formulated and with increasing memberships. But part of the problem is that people who aren't politically ideological, let's say, are busy doing other things, right? They're busy getting educated. They're busy becoming engineers or scientists, and they don't really have the time, in some sense, to attend to these political issues. And most of the time, that's actually a pretty good choice. But I'm afraid we've got to the point where the ideologues are increasingly threatening the integrity of even the scientific disciplines, especially biology is really their next target. And so I'm afraid that the students and the faculty members who've been asleep while all of this is happening, and perhaps rightly so, have to wake up and notice that the political has become relevant, unfortunately.
I think many administrators fear these people. Deans.
They fear them and pander to them at the same time.
Yeah, they fear, but the fear overrides due process, for example. I mean, we're saying in many colleges. There's an unholy alliance between the administrators and the radicals in some sense. So one of the things that's happened in the United States, I would say, is that as the universities have become more and more expensive, and a larger and larger proportion of that expense, let's say, parsed off for the administrators, and more students relying on student loans, there's
what that means is that there's been a transformation in the way the universities conceptualize students, I would say. So the students are primary sources of revenue, and they defer their future income, all right? They pay their future income in their tuition, essentially, and now you can't declare bankruptcy if you have a student loan in the United States. So the administrators have figured out how to pick the future pockets of university students, and I think they're willing to leave the campuses. They're not willing to discipline the students or to hold them accountable, because that would interfere with treating them in the kind of consumer-friendly manner that increases the probability that they're going to stay in university and rack up debt that they can't drop.
Well, so, maybe that's a factor, but I pointed to Yale when there was a housing director who said, hey, you know what? This Halloween costume political correctness, this is insane. You want to dress up with a Mexican hat, go have fun. And that woman and her husband, who taught at Yale as well, had to leave. They were forced out of the university. All right? Nobody in the administration came to their aid. And that's when I'm talking about fear. I've seen colleges. I went to the Kennedy School at Harvard. You know it well, correct?
Yeah.
All right. In the mid-'90s, there wasn't any of this. I mean, it tilted left, but it had a big cadre of military people coming in for mid-career degrees. And therefore, it was kind of sane. Right now, the Kennedy School, if you go into the Shorenstein Press Center, every single instructor, every single one, is left or far left. There isn't any moderate people there, and that's because of the administration. They're afraid to hire anybody who's moderate.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the administration precisely or just the way the hiring process is folded out across time. You know, you can get positive feedback loops developing in systems without anyone really planning them, you know, and I think that's partly happened at the universities. Not that I'm excusing it, but it's definitely the case that moderate or conservative voices are almost entirely lacking. So
is that the same thing in Canada too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially in the humanities and the social sciences.
Well, it's
not so bad in the STEM fields. Oh, yeah, it's the same thing everywhere in the Western world, as far as I can tell.
So then this dovetails into your book, 12 Rules for Life. Because if you have only one power structure on a college campus or in a country or in a town, okay, you're going to have chaos. Okay, because that power structure is going to be able to impose its will on you. And that's what we're seeing in America. We are seeing that, and I'm sure you know this, we are seeing an attack on the President of the United States by the media that's unprecedented. They want him out of there. They're not reporting. They're trying to hang him. They want him out. The corporate chieftains want him removed. It's not about reporting anymore. And the chaos that's ensued, whether you like Trump or not, I don't know how the man does his job every day.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the political situation that surrounded Nixon in the 70s. You know, this is the last time that I saw that much political tension, I think, emanating from the United States, internal political tension. So
it's a different situation, though.
Yeah, well, it is.
Because this is naked advocacy for money, too. I mean, the people who are on the side of removing President Trump, they can make big money. And then you have the women's movement that we now know is tied into the far left, all right? And you have this unbelievable massing of totalitarian forces. I think it's really frightening.
Well, part of the problem, Bill, as far as I can tell, is that there's no simple way of clearly defining the ideas on the left that go too far. You know, because each of the ideas taken singly have a certain amount of attraction, especially to people who are compassionate. But if you get the ideas pushed far enough, like I would say they're pushed too far, for example, when the radical leftists go after equality of outcome, then things take a vicious tilt in a totalitarian direction. But it's not easy to explain that to people who don't know anything about history and who don't know anything about philosophy. Like, it's hard to put your finger on exactly why that's a bad idea. You know,
but there is a backlash brewing. Look, if Mueller indicts Donald Trump, there's going to be a civil war in this country. in the United
Well,
States.
let's hope it doesn't get to that. Do you
It's
think he
almost
will
there.
indict him?
No, I don't think he will. And I think the Inspector General of the Justice Department is going to save President Trump, because it will besmirch, that report will besmirch the FBI, and the credibility of the investigation, both in Hillary Clinton's email and in the Russian collusion, will, evaporate. But then the left will turn to the women, and they'll try to use the women to destroy Trump, which is already.